your question was on the table and Ms. Jan was answering that, so we're gonna go back to that thought.
Okay. Like I said, I think we were pointing out, like I said, what Mr. Knight was pointing out down here was, as you can see, like in HEO3, we're on page 3, in HEO3, that's been here, he was at a grade 14 at a step 15. Now we're moving him to a grade 17, step 10. So it does move him down closer to the minimum, so there's not maybe as big a gap as you would say. I understand that. But what we were trying to do was at least get them into a step comparable to what they're currently making. Like I said, I understand it's difficult, especially for those maybe that have been here a couple of years. It's putting them at the same rate that somebody new's coming in at. And like I said, I know that's a difficult position, but feasibly, we had to do what we felt like we could afford to do, and I understand, like I said, and this is kind of giving everybody a little bump now, maybe, and then, like I said, they'll see something each year. And there again, like I said, I think one of the questions that had come up was, you know, that we get a 3% increase based on our evaluation, based on your minimum. So that person that's been here 10 years, the person that starts, you know, today, each year they're going to get the same increase as that person. Like I said, you know, because it's 3% based on your minimum. Everybody gets the same, they're in the same grade, they're going to get the same increase. So that's the way our step plan works.
Did that answer your question, or did you need a follow-up question? Okay.
The 3 people on the page that are minimum are new employees, new hires.
Yes, sir.
They're
I
seeing
say
the most
that,
substantial increase.
I say that there is one gentleman, we do have one of them on the HEO3s, and I'm not sure which one it is, that is not, that's been here probably 2 years. One of them that's at the minimum's been here about 2 years.
And, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I understand now better about the grades and the step a little better. Just to clarify, though, Danny mentioned earlier, to qualify for the step, you get a satisfactory rating or
That's
above
correct.
on your annual evaluation?
Yeah.
And that's the step is in place for that, so it's either that or nothing. If you get a needs improvement or not satisfactory, then you don't get.
All your points on the evaluation sheet's got to be satisfactory. If you've got one that's unsatisfactory, you don't get your,
Is there a delay in that, or is it that for the entire year? There's not a
Whole year.
The entire year.
And then if an employee gets the satisfactory rating and gets the 3% of the minimum of that grade, that's their increase for that year.
Yeah.
There's not another performance-based merit increase or anything like that, so that's the 3%.
No.
So I understand better now exactly what you're talking about the adjustments with the grades and keeping people. This is sort of a transition that we're talking about right here, that.
yeah, this will not occur each year.
Right.
No.
Get some,
And I understand better now about the fitting the employee in there and how that happens. So I appreciate that, and I apologize for not being able to understand that.
And
But I understand better now. So.
in the grades, and we were talking about lawn care. Years ago, if you could run pruning shears and a hoe and a shovel, you were there. But now, with all the equipment that you got, zero turn, it's moved up a little bit above, so those grades kind of move up with the mechanic. Used to, mechanic could show up, he'd get out of his truck with a tool kit. He gets out of his truck now with a laptop and plugs it in, and you've got, in one pay grade, you've got to be careful where they fall, because it's got to be in somewhat of an order on the requirements and responsibilities and education and everything. But and the board felt when we started the step plan, we sold it based on your 3% being on the minimum, because each year you get 3% on your existing salary, full on, it adds up.
Right.
and we couldn't afford
And that's
that.
why the compression that I was talking about under a different scenario is actually based on where you fall within your range. So if I'm brand new in the range and making the minimum, then I'm gonna be eligible for a larger increase doing the same job performance than the person right beside me that's been in that job for 10 years, that's higher up in the range, doing the same job, get the same evaluation, but because they're based on their midpoint, they're higher, they're only eligible for a smaller increase. That's where that compression happens. But I understand now the step process is fixed based on the minimum, and now this is a transition, getting people to fit in those slots.
Right.
I understand that, and I appreciate
Yeah.
the time.
In compression, most of the time where compression is caused is you say, and our council was good at this, anybody that's making over $40,000 a year doesn't get anything this year. Well, or anybody over a captain's position doesn't get anything this year. And everybody down here is getting boosted up. Next year, they boost them up again in full on, they compress at the top. And to fix that compression is what politicians do not like to do, is give the upper management any kind of increase. But when, to get out of that compression corner that you built yourself in, takes big money and, a lot of guts. So that's the compression that we used to have to fight downtown. And we had times where the council said, somebody would deserve $5,500. We're not gonna give anything to anybody over 6. And you get caught in that. So it's best to get the plan at a starting point, and this is what we're doing now, is getting it back to a good starting point, and we don't have to go through these things next year, unless you get another section of the workforce that you can't hire. We went through it years ago with EMS. Couldn't get them. Florence started a program. Richmond started a program, and they were just leaving. So we had to go in and do something about that one group of workers or one grade of workers.
When you adjusted their steps, did you have a percentage in mind that they shouldn't exceed, that they needed to be adjusted?
We did not, like I said, we just did the 25 steps. And like I said, since it's based on a 3% on your minimum each year, like I said, we just continue with that same, which we didn't change this grades at all. Like I said, they've stayed the
Right.
same.
But the steps you adjusted, did you use a percentage in mind? You didn't
We
exceed 8%.
didn't adjust the steps either. Like I said, we didn't adjust the grades or the steps, we just found new placement in them.
The closest one.
Exactly, yes, sir, exactly.
Jan, let me
Yes.
just ask you a quick question, so I'll be clear. The 3% is on the minimum,
Yes, sir.
okay? So it's not on the salary.
No, sir.
Your satisfactory rating, can you get anything higher than satisfactory?
No, sir.
So satisfactory is all you get, so everybody would be at the 3%.
Yes, sir.
Or none.
And you decided this would be the best time to do an overall review of the salary plan simply because you were looking, well, not simply, but because you were looking at the difficult positions to hire. So you decided that with the changes, Bill leaving us, that this would be a best time that you could put all that into play, and then just start it at one time. You wouldn't have to piecemeal it as you go forward.
That's right.
Exactly, yes, sir. Felt like it was fair and feasible at the time.
One of the most difficult things, and I've heard council talk about for years, is things that are very important to us as well as them, and that is the longevity of the person that you have. I remember just about every year for 10 years, they talked about police officers. They'd spend 90 to 97, 98, 100,000 to pay for their training. They'd have them working in less than a year or a year when they get that certification. They've paid all the money for that. And then they would leave to take a little tiny bit of a salary increase. And it got to the point that it was not sustainable to pay for these trainings. So it's very important that we be very aware of the employees that we've had here 5 and 10 and 15 years, because what we would lose in work and experience and in knowledge would be tough to replace. And that is worth paying for. There's no doubt about that. And one of the things that I noticed, kind of like the county assesses your property, immediately that assessment may go up, but the millage comes back down so that there isn't a windfall. And I think from what I've looked and most of what you have, that's what you've done. That may not be saying it complicated, but to me, that's what I see. So those two things I like. Thank you.
And understand, when we look through this, we keep talking about the positions that are hard to fill, but the majority of our current minimums were lower than anybody else. So just because it's very difficult to hire those positions, if we lost an accountant, we couldn't replace it at the minimum that we currently have.
Just wanted to point out to you, and you may have seen on page 4 and on page 5, of course, we've got the trades workers listed there with no increase. Those are our site attendants. In doing the county's budget this year, they've gone through on our unincorporated collection system budget and made some cuts to the budget because they're actually having to hit fund balance in the unincorporated collection system. And Steve even mentioned at the last INR meeting that they're going to have to do some kind of millage increase for that collection system. So when talking with him about this, he actually asked that we would keep it to a minimum of $25,000, and so we were not able to do anything for the site attendants this year. We do have 4 employees that you'll see kind of in a purple color, one being the driver and the 3 supervisor positions that we were able to do a little bit for them. But like I said, the site attendants we were not able to, but we're hoping that what we can do is next year put in the budget an increase for them. With some time and hopefully, with them being aware of it, we can work that in for them next year. That's our plan, to request that next year for them.
But the site attendants work for the county. We just manage the site attendants, right?
They pay those salaries.
Right.
We manage them.
Right.
We've always said they were our employees, but tipping fees does not pay their salary. The millage that the county collects pays for that side of the operation. We get a management fee for management based on what the checks we write and those type activities that we perform to make that program work.
And just so that all the board members understand this, we work very closely with the county. Jan talks with their bookkeepers, their financial people, their supervisors that handle this and their budget. As she just said, that was their recommendation for those employees to handle it within the county's budgets. So all of these discussions and these figures and whatever are being discussed with the salary. These are not secrets.
Right. On the last page, I just kind of have a summary for you. Understand this is actually what we originally, when we first started our budget process back in January. Page 7, yeah, I'm sorry. What we had for a personnel cost. And when I say personnel cost, this includes salaries, includes FICA, retirement, health insurance, workers' comp. This is what we originally had budgeted. This is what we're proposing with all the new costs, and this also does include, of course, Mr. Besson's new salary as well, taking over the new responsibilities, and the difference. And this is where, Mr. Knight keeps mentioning the $22,000. As you can see, that's exactly where we're going to end up saving $22,000. Of course, like I said, you can see the biggest change, of course, in the landfill division, but you can see where the differences come into play. Of course, the largest difference being in collection and hauling, but that's where our drivers are, our CDL drivers, and that's where we've seen the biggest increase. That's where we're having the difficulty hiring. That's where the biggest increase is. So you can see that we can cover the cost of implementing this and still saving $22,000. So I just wanted to have that there for you so you can see where the changes were coming into play by department.
Do any board members have any questions, or do they have any requests that something be brought back in a different form before our budget meeting tomorrow? Is there anything you'd like to see on this subject? Now is the time to give the staff some instruction if that is so.
So Bill is going to get a real big going away party because he is divvying out his salary to everyone else.
I told him it's like giving us a kidney. He's like donating a kidney to us.
You know, and I'd like to say, Mr. Hilling, that I want you to enjoy life. You've done a great job, but it does look to me like you could keep working, enjoy life on the weekends or something instead of leaving, right?
I'd like to have his salary. He's paying the whole SWA.
And how long have you been here, Mr. Hilling? 11 years. 11 years. I think that rate's a going away party, Mr. Knight.
I agree.
I think you've done an excellent job, and we will really and truly be sad to see you go, but we will think about you, and we hope you get a suntan out on the beach or do whatever it is that you enjoy doing.
When Bill came to me, I knew there was, I should have known there was something up, because he'd look around the door, and if anybody, he'd leave. He'd come back and had something in his hand, and he said, I wanted to give you this. And I looked at it, and I looked, I said, I don't want this. I said, I'm gonna put it in my desk drawer, and we'll talk about it Friday. I think that was on a Monday, and, but
Didn't work.
I think Bill's playing well, and we're gonna miss him, and, he'll be back helping us, I'm sure, time and time out.
I really enjoyed it. Y'all have been, good to me, and, just the 11 years I've been here is some of the best experience in my career that I've had. And I appreciate it.
Bill's another one that came from the private side and had to learn a new way of doing business.
He does have a non-compete clause, doesn't he?
Right. Yeah, you do realize you
That's a
can't,
good idea.
in a few weeks after that, we don't want to see you go to work for private industry, Bill. We'll be very disappointed in you, I'm telling you. Okay, does this,
I think Mr. Ives, he's asked for another work chart of,
And you could do it simply by tabulating.
Right, exactly.
If
That's
you
what I thought
would.
I would do. Yes, sir.
That's all I would need to see how it scatters by.
I can do that.
Because on page 7, you've given us the gross summary of what happens in each department, which helps a great deal of seeing the impact each department.
okay, any other board member have any suggestions or requests from Jan?
and if you have any, just give us a call, and, if you think of something, why does this happen, or, let's go ahead and get them, ask the questions, we'll get the answers, but I think we kept it to a minimum, we kept it to where we thought that, we could get it approved. If you had plenty of money, it'd have been simple to just, do it another way, but, this was the first price that we came up with by no means. So I appreciate the questions, always appreciate the questions. And we look forward to tomorrow. I think we got a good opportunity with this. I think our budget's gonna look, decent. Things sound good with the treasurer's office on, reports that we're getting on the interest rate, so if we can just keep the prices up in China.
We'll be okay. Everyone does remember that we have a budget meeting tomorrow at 10:30. And if there's nothing,
Health screening.
we have the health screening, and for those of you that are new, Jan, would you like to explain that?
You should consider a budget after giving.
After giving blood, we'll be lightheaded. Okay, Jan, explain what that is in case people want to come in the time.
The health screening we offer annually to all of our employees. The employees that are covered under the state health plan actually receive it free. For part-time employees and for board members, the Solid Waste Authority picks up the minimal cost. But it's about a $350 benefit. So you come in, takes longer to fill out the paperwork than to give the blood. But it's a comprehensive
They
blood
do,
test.
really do a good
They
job.
do. And you can take some additional tests like a PSA or
The lipid
thyroid.
profile, they do also, that's an additional cost, so
No, that's free.
the lipid profile.
Yes, sir. You can get an A1C for $30. You know, there's a lot of things you can get extra if you want that will cost you a whole lot more at your doctor's office. So it'll be from 7 in the morning until about 10-ish. So if you'd like to come, just let me know and I'll put you down.
Okay, and if
And I
there,
want to thank staff for all the hard work. Obviously,
Yeah.
a lot of work went into this.
Right.
And I know y'all spent a tremendous amount of time on it, so thank y'all for all the hard work.
you certainly did, thank you, did a good job. We have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
So moved, we are adjourned.
I have,
Thank you,
I have hard copies